Hi, everyone. It is great to see you all. Thanks for making it. We'll give it one more minute for people to trickle in and then we'll get started. All right, I think we'll get started. Again, thank you so much. For those who don't know who I am, I'm Kat. I am the RTAG facilitator. Welcome. I hope meeting in the afternoon was helpful for some of you all instead of our typical evening time meetings. And we can go to the next slide. So just a notification of recording. This virtual public meeting will be recorded. The MBTA may choose to retain and distribute the video, still images, audio, and/or transcript. By continuing attendance with this virtual public meeting, you consent to participate in a recorded event. If you're not comfortable being recorded, please turn off your camera and keep your microphone muted, or you may choose to excuse yourself from the meeting. Other important notes. Your microphone and webcam are automatically disabled upon entering the meeting. The meeting will be open to questions and answers at the end of the formal presentation. Please take time to respond to our survey. Your feedback is important. Our agenda for today's meeting, we will start with welcome and introductions, and then Zoom directions, an RTAG co-chair update by Nora Nagel, system-wide accessibility updates by Laura Brailsford, the Assistant General Manager. Then we will have a system-wide accessibility feedback session, followed by the ride updates given by Michelle Styler, the Chief of Paratransit Services. Then we will have the ride feedback session, and then finally some closing remarks. Zoom directions for ASL interpreters. Today, our ASL interpreters are Janice Evans and Dina Stolp. To view their video, find the interpreter's video in the gallery. In the top right corner of the interpreter's video, click the ellipses, then click the pin video option. This will keep the interpreter's video on your screen. Zoom directions for CART captioning. Our CART captioner tonight is Denise Gracia. To start viewing closed captioning, click closed caption with the CC icon. A tip is to click and drag the closed captioning to move its positioning in the meeting window. To adjust the caption size, click the upward arrow next to the start video, stop video. Click video settings, then accessibility. Move the slider to adjust the caption size. Zoom directions for using the chat for technical questions. If you have a technical question about Zoom or the features of the meeting, please use the chat function. Our technical assistant will attempt to troubleshoot your problem and get back to you. And now it's time for our RTAG co-chair update given by Nora Nagel.
Hi, everybody, and thanks for joining this afternoon. I hope this is a better time slot for some people. As you may know, the Riders Transportation Access Group, also known as RTAG, is a community-based group that advises the MBTA on transportation matters impacting people with disabilities and older adults. Our goal is to ensure that all people with disabilities and older adults have every opportunity to be fully participating members of our community, noting that fundamental to this opportunity is the right and the ability to use public transportation in an equal, effective, and dignified manner. RTAG has continued to work towards positive changes over the past couple of months. RTAG continues to discuss the challenges posed by bicyclists' increased use of streets and sidewalks and MBTA vehicles, impacting MBTA vehicles. WCVB interviewed Tom Gilbert, a plaintiff in the Joanne Daniels Feingold lawsuit, and an RTAG executive board member about concerns over passengers needing to cross one of two bike lanes to get to a bus. The American Civil Liberties Union, supported by BCIL and the Disability Law Center, filed an act to modernize participation in public meetings, which is House Bill 304, Senate Bill 2024, a bill that would improve equitable access to open public meetings by allowing members of the public to participate in person or remotely, and to establish a trust fund to help municipalities finance this goal. Kat Torres Radazik, the RTAG facilitator, testified on behalf of RTAG to emphasize that the right and the ability to use remote and hybrid access gives people with disabilities and older adults with limited transportation due to accessibility concerns, the ability to participate in public meetings. With RTAG support, the MBTA approved the request to increase ride driver wages to maintain the right of people with disabilities to access safe, reliable, and equitable public transportation, and to become more competitive with MBTA bus driver wages. Competitive wages can help reduce driver turnover and help retain experienced drivers, thus improving operation efficiency, morale among the drivers, and job performance. The Rider Transportation Access Group continues to discuss the denial of service by Lyft and Uber drivers of people using service animals, including the RideFlex refusals. And that is my update.
Thanks, Nora. Next, we will have a system-wide accessibility update given by Laura Brailsford, the Assistant General Manager.
Thank you, Kat, and thanks everyone. I'm really happy to be here with you all on this beautiful September afternoon. So we have a couple updates we wanted to share with the group today. The first is that here at the MBTA, we are preparing for another major surge in track and signal work along one of our busiest corridors, and that is the red line along the Ashmont branch. So between JFK Station and Ashmont and the Mattapan line, we will be shutting down service between October 14th and the 29th. We will be shutting down rail service and replacing service with shuttle buses. These will be provided during all hours of operations. With just like with most of our shuttles, all shuttle stops will be accessible and shuttle buses will be accessible. This particular shuttle will see a mix of low floor ramp equipped buses as well as coach style buses with lifts towards the rear of the bus. We will also be sure to have a small number of accessible vans on hand should any rider prefer to use the van. Those can be requested by speaking with staff in the field. Speaking of those staff will be present at all of the shuttle stop locations to provide assistance to any rider as needed. The entire purpose of this surge and these station shutdowns is to allow the MBTA to accelerate much needed track repairs along this corridor. As many people are aware, there have been significant slowdowns on the red line and the Mattapan line due to speed restrictions being placed on operations because of concerns around the aging track conditions. So this will allow our maintenance teams to get out there and much more quickly be able to upgrade all of the track along those stretches and reduce those speed restrictions significantly. So again, we'd ask everyone to keep an eye on our website and keep an eye on the news. There will be a lot of public outreach coming in the next couple of weeks, but we wanted to make sure you all heard a heads up here. Again, this will be happening 1 month from now, between October 14th and the 29th. Of course, as with everything, details are subject to change. So please keep an eye on our website or our contact our call center if you have any questions to learn more as we get closer to the start date. Next slide, please. All right, the next update we wanted to share is we are extremely excited to announce that earlier this week, we launched a marketing campaign here at the T solely focused on accessibility. This, in many ways, is a first of its kind campaign, and we couldn't be happier about it. There are really 3 goals that went into this campaign that we had in the back of our minds as we were formulating ideas over the last year. The first is that we want to communicate to all of our riders that accessibility improvements benefit all riders, not just riders with disabilities. We also wanted to use the campaign to raise awareness about key accessibility policies and services that not everyone might be aware of. And we wanted to share the progress we've made towards system-wide accessibility on our fixed route system over the last 15 years, and emphasize our commitment to continue advancing process well into the future. So this campaign is pretty broad in nature. We've got ads in a number of local papers that will be running for the next several weeks. We've got several radio spots out there, as well as audio ads on a few different streaming platforms. We have, of course, posters all over a number of our subway cars and buses. And there are a bunch of really cool digital ads throughout our entire system, some of which I am about to show you. We also are pushing out a few fun accessibility related videos on social media. And there is now a page on our website that Lisa's going to drop in the chat in a second that will take you to a page that includes a bunch of the different campaign creatives. And we're actually over the next week going to be adding more content up there. So if you're interested in seeing all of the content, definitely check that out. We really wanted to take a moment here to give a major thanks to the Daniels Feingold plaintiffs, as well as the RTAG Executive Board, and a number of other riders who were really deeply involved in helping us frame our messaging, helping us carve out the specific language we use in each creative, and then also who you'll see in a second very actively participated in a bunch of different photo shoots. So really it was a lot of fun getting to involve all of our longest term collaborators in this campaign. So just want to take a couple minutes to show you just a sampling of what you'll see out on the system. So this first creative is sort of the main message of our campaign, and it says in bold letters, an accessible T benefits us all. Learn more at mbta.com/accessibility. Then our logo for the campaign, our catchphrase is Access in Motion with the MBTA logo. And then the photo on this creative shows a group of riders on one of our Orange Line platforms. We've got Joanne Daniels Feingold right there using her motorized wheelchair. We've also got a father with his young daughter in a stroller, along with three other customers there, just showing the diversity of our ridership and sort of signaling that, again, accessibility is benefits all of our riders. Next slide. So this next creative is one you're going to see on what we call our triptychs. Those are our 3-panel large digital screens that we have at a number of subway stations. Again, this one says, did you know in 10 years, 1 in 5 Boston area residents will be over 65? We're improving access so it's there when you need it. mbta.com/accessibility. Again, with the Access in Motion, slogan. And then the visual for this is we've got two older adults, two older women who one of is our Big Cepeda, one of the original named plaintiffs in the Daniels Feingold lawsuit, and a very good friend of hers, clearly having a good time on one of our subway platforms. Next slide. All right, this next one is a statement that not everybody is aware of, but really is a powerful message and a true statement we want people to think about, and that is our disabled employees and riders drive accessibility at the decisions at the T. Nothing about us without us. And the photo associated with this one is a photo of System-Wide Accessibility's own Rob Sampson out at one of our bus garages, working with a bus inspector. There's a photo of Rob demonstrating the functionality of a bus ramp while he's seated in his manual wheelchair. So that is a message we are really proud of, not only the message itself, but the fact that it is a true statement. Okay, the next one, this is just a service we want to make sure people are aware of. It says, did you know you can get elevator outage alerts sent to your phone or online by going to mbta.com/elevators, or you could call the elevator escalator hotline at 617-222-2828 or 711 for Mass Relay Access in Motion. And then this is a really great photo. We've got Kat, our RTAG facilitator, along with another BCIL employee who's seated in his wheelchair, checking out theoretically an elevator alert on his smartphone, and they are sitting outside of the new Park Street elevator on the Boston Common. All right, and this is one fact. This next one is a fact demonstrating our commitment and investment in continuing to improve accessibility. It says, did you know we're making 20+ more stations accessible over the next 5 years, including Symphony. mbta.com/accessibility, Access in Motion. And the visual here is a rendering of what will eventually be a brand new, very beautiful head house at the historic Symphony Station, which will be moving into construction over the next year and a half. Next slide. All right, we obviously wanted to make sure we plugged RTAG and engaging with RTAG as an important important resource for our riders. So this creative said, join the Riders Transportation Access Group. Real input, real change. Help guide accessibility at the MBTA, mbta.com/rtag. And the photo was taken over in the BSAL conference room. It shows a number of RTAG members seated around the table, getting ready to get down to work. All right, next slide. All right, and so last but not least for today, and again, there's a lot more on our website if you want to check out all the creatives, but these two up on the screen are something we were particularly excited about. Is we had the opportunity to create these enormous decals that are adhered to the side of our buses, a number of our buses. So both of the decals boast the same big message of our campaign, which is simply that an accessible T benefits us all, access in motion. But on each of these decals, there are 5 individual photos. Again, really visually conveying the diversity of our ridership and the fact that accessibility really does benefit everyone. In the first decal, we've got a photo of a great image of a woman with her service animal on our new Orange Line train. Second image is of Reggie Clark, who is blind, seated on a bench outside of one of our stations, followed by Joanne Daniels Feingold herself outside one of our stations. Next photo is a young woman who happens to be hard of hearing. To start raising awareness around non-apparent disabilities was an important message within our broader campaign, I should mention. And she's displayed here. And then on the far right of the first decal is a photo of Andy Foreman from BCIL and the plaintiffs group on a Green Line train pressing the call for assistance button. On the second decal at the bottom of the screen, we have a photo of a Latina older woman there who we saw in an earlier creative, followed by RTAG's very own Tom Gilbert, also a member of the named plaintiffs. In the center, we have Mick Cepeda, also a member of the named plaintiffs, followed by Luisa, a BCIL employee, wheelchair user, who was featured in our elevator creative, and then followed by Curtis Samaranian, actually a T employee who is shown pushing his young daughter in a stroller. So again, this was a really amazing opportunity for us to basically pull together a tribute for the named plaintiffs. I think we all recognize we would not be where we are as an agency without their advocacy and the advocacy of everyone who's been involved from that point on, including RTAG. So we are really, again, thrilled to have these creatives out on the system. I would absolutely love to know, my team would love to know if you happen to see any of them in your travels or as you're reading the paper or you're listening to your favorite streaming station. Feel free to grab a selfie or send us a note. We're hoping that this generates a lot of not only awareness, but conversation about the benefits of accessibility. Next slide. All right, just to wrap things up, to learn more about accessibility at the T, there are a number of ways to stay engaged. The first is RTAG's next meeting will be just over 1 month away, October 19th, also at 3 p.m. And that will be a virtual meeting. And for those that like to plan way ahead, we've got a semi-annual settlement update meeting already on the calendar for December 6th at 5:30. Both of those will be virtual meetings. At any point, we would encourage folks to check out mbta.com accessibility. We have so much information up there, from frequently asked questions to our new campaign creatives to a full list of all the station projects that are in the pipeline, as well as detailed information about how to submit feedback to us. So if you haven't visited our page in a while, please check it out. You can also check out our latest initiative report, where we summarize all of the major projects happening in the fixed route system related to accessibility by going to mbta.com/SWA-initiatives. All right, and last but not least, if at any point you have a question, a complaint, a concern, or a commendation, we really do want to hear from you. We take each and every piece of feedback very seriously. If it's clear that it is an accessibility complaint related to the fixed route system, my team will be involved in its handling personally. And you can reach out in a couple different ways. You can call the MBTA's main call center at 617-222-3200. Again, if you use relay, you can dial 711 for mass relay. You can also file feedback online by going to mbta.com and clicking on the support tab at the top of the page. Or you can always tweet us at MBTA and let us know what's going on, and you will hear back from one of our information officers. And next slide, I believe. All right, yep. So I will wrap things up here, and at this point be happy to take any questions or feedback on anything I just mentioned or anything else you would like to share.
Thanks, Laura. So for the question and comment period for system-wide accessibility, to indicate that you have a question, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it alerts the moderator that you'd like to speak. The moderator will unmute attendees to ask questions in the order that they raise their hands. To speak, click reactions, then raise hand. If you're typing, you can click Alt button and the Y key. And if you're calling in, you can press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Yenter, you're first. We're not able to hear you, Yenter. I'm going to pass over Yenter to, is it Inky?
I'm asking the question of if you have a specific stop, is there a process to sort of boost making it accessibility? I understand that Somerville just did that to one of their stops with some assistance from the municipality or local groups. And I'm interested in one in Brookline, if that's a possibility.
So are you referring to, I assume you're referring to a bus stop?
In this case, it would be a T stop.
Okay. And do you have a little bit more information on the change that was recently made?
The Somerville one was just a news article in like the Brookline Patch and the Brookline News. That they had just made, it's a red line station, I think. I never use the red line, I'm sorry. That had been made accessible with, well, all parties were basically named and, you know, many pats on the back were given, which was thoroughly deserved. But it implied that it was not just an MBTA driven action, it was like a community action.
All right,
Okay.
well, I'm not confident. I am aware of the particular project you're referring to. My guess is that there may have been some coverage around a long-term project we've been working on at Davis Square in Davis Square, Somerville, where we're in the process of designing a pretty major upgrade to that station, where we will be constructing an additional elevator to the station and modernizing the existing elevators there. And although that is definitely an MBTA project, there's been lots of collaboration with the city and with local residents. So that is a really, really great project that's again been in design for a while now. I will note we don't yet have construction funding lined up for that project. I know the design still has a ways to go, so we're hoping to move that into construction in about a year or so from now. But yes, that is my guess, is that is what the article is about. I would say, to answer your question, if you or anyone here is interested in seeing upgrades at a station you use or would like to use, specifically, especially if you're having any challenges with the level of accessibility at any of our challenges, absolutely the best way to advocate is to start by letting us know about that. So if you reach out to us using any of the channels I just mentioned, and that feedback will make its way to my department. We are sort of the lead entity within the MBTA for prioritizing accessibility upgrades, and rider feedback honestly is one of the main criteria we look at. So absolutely, I would encourage everybody here, if there is a barrier that you're experiencing, whether it's at a bus stop or a station, please let us know, and we can either let you know if there's work already in progress, or we can put that on our list of projects to advocate for and move forward with.
Thanks, Laura. Yenter, I see that you were able to come on camera.
Yes, the interpreter can see me. Okay, hello. Everyone, good afternoon. My name is Yenter, and I hope that all of you are doing well today. I think this is a wonderful presentation. I really appreciated seeing this. A little bit about myself. I was raised in Boston, Massachusetts for many years, and I'm now in the state of Texas. But the reason I wanted to be involved with this program is because accessibility is so important. And my experience growing up, I hope that maybe with this story that you would take this into consideration as well. You know, when you go to the ticket counter, most of them behind the ticket counter, if it's a live person, they speak. And so I'm wondering, is there a possibility that we could put like an iPad or something with multiple languages? I'm not speaking specifically to a sign language interpreter, but there are many companies out there that have lots of language accessibilities. And there are so many international people that come, especially to Boston, Massachusetts. So if we could consider letting an iPad, whenever you use an interpreter, it could be spoken or sign language, it's paid by the minute. So all you need, you don't need a person, all you need is a an app, a program that's uploaded into an iPad, and it could be something that's the person behind the counter could bring out and refer to somebody. And I think that any spoken language or sign language, or even an emergency situation, I've heard stories that all kinds of emergency things happen in transportation. So that would be one great way to have accessibility for all.
Yeah, I love that feedback. And so the one thing I can say we have in place today that is very much in line with what you're recommending is that many of the staff that work in our subway stations, which we call our transit ambassadors, they are all equipped with iPads that have tools around communicating with folks across a number of different channels, sort of multiple languages being one of them. What we don't do as well today, and this is a great, again, these are why these meetings are so useful, is we don't do a great job at some of our static sort of walk-up location customer service stations. So for example, I don't believe, but we will double check, I don't believe our Charlie Card store has iPads on hand for staff. And I don't believe our ticket counter at North Station does as well. We will double check on this, but that is absolutely something that we will raise for them. That's very much in line with our efforts to make sure we're able to communicate with all of our riders, whether it's through everyday interactions or, like you mentioned, especially during emergencies. So yeah, I really appreciate, thank you for raising that.
Thank you, Yenter. Thanks, Laura. Esther.
Hello, everyone. I have a question. I know that you talk about system-wide accessibility throughout the transit system. I'd like to know what you plan on doing, or if there is any plan at all, to better the lighting at your commuter rail stations. My major pet peeve with this is coming into North Station. I don't care what time of day it is, but if all 12 of those locomotives are across those tracks, those platforms are so dark that a person like me, legally blind, low vision, cannot see where we're going. If I have someone standing in or walking in front of me, either wearing neon orange, neon green, or white, I can follow them and see how to get into North Station. The only time you can see any semblance of lighting on that platform is up by the doors where the TD Garden starts. And it's like maybe a good 5 feet, and then that's it. That is not safe for anyone, especially a person that is legally blind, or otherwise. I do believe that is a problem that seriously needs to be worked on and looked at, as well as a lot of your green line stations like Copley Square, Prudential. You've done a great job at Park Street. It took long enough, but you did a great job with that. If the lighting in these stations can be where someone like me doesn't always run into the turnstile trying to get through it, or trying to find it in the first place when we get off the elevator because it's so dark in there that we can't see. Is there anything that is going to be done about improving the stations in this way?
Yes, yeah, and Esther, I want to acknowledge, I know you have been very diligent in raising this concern for a long time now over the course of a number of meetings. So I know you started with commuter rail. Let me start with our subway stations first, and then I'll touch on commuter rail. I was just 2 hours ago meeting with a brand new MBTA employee who has accepted what I believe will be one of the most challenging jobs in the system, a new position called the chief of stations. And his job will really to be an advocate for the safe operation and safe state of repair of all of our passenger facing facilities within our subway network. And we were talking about lighting briefly, among a number of other things. So as he gets settled, he is going to be working on a number of kind of prioritized efforts to address a number of major facilities issues. And we're going to work with him to figure out how lighting fits into that. You referenced the Park Street upgrade. I think that's a great example of a station that is now very, very well lit, but it might not be obvious that is a project that took several $1 million and several weekends of station shutdowns to complete. Lighting upgrades are deceptively complicated and expensive. So not to say we don't understand how important they are, but it's something that has to get prioritized and factored in along with all of the other critical safety needs in our station. But on the subway side, we have just received a great new colleague to advocate for these upgrades along with our team. On the commuter rail side, we will reach out again to our colleagues in Railroad Ops and Keolis. I know they had started to look at some of these issues. Let me follow up specifically on North Station. I believe Esther, you also mentioned Back Bay as a concern. Let us follow up with them again, and I will either Jen or I will reach out to you personally sometime next week just to let you know where that stands.
Thanks, Laura. Thanks, Esther. Does anybody have any final questions or comments for system-wide accessibility before we move on to the ride portion of the meeting? All right, we can go ahead to the next slide. Oh, and we'll stay informed on accessibility updates. You can sign up for newsletters from System-Wide Accessibility at www.mbta.com/SWA sign up. And there is a QR code on the screen as well. All right, I'm going to pass it over to Michelle Styler, the Chief of Paratransit Services, to give the ride updates.
Thank you, Kat. First off, I think I want to start. Can you hear me? My volume on? Okay, great. First off, I want to start by congratulating Laura and her team on this ad campaign. Access in Motion, the ads look fantastic, and it has really motivated us at the ride as we've talked about expanding our outreach and education efforts. And I can share with you that we've started some discussions internally with customer technology and experience and hope to have something soon, and would like to also thank ORTAG members for beginning these discussions with us. I'm going to start with updates on our service and performance, and then I'll speak to some efforts underway to improve our customer experience. So August ridership increased 7.5% compared to July. We are seeing an increase in integrated trips, particularly with the onboarding of Userve and Curb. And ridership is actually up 16% year to date compared to the same month last year. Just some numbers here. August Userve trips were 2,898 and Curb was 315. Curb lags slightly behind Userve as we onboarded Userve first. We anticipate increasing Curb trips through September. And it's also worth sharing, and RTAG mentioned that earlier, that we are working through driver wage increases that we're hopeful will allow our existing service providers to fully staff up, and we will see a direct impact on performance. Thank you. So this slide here is regarding on-time performance. Our on-time performance dipped in May, but we saw an incremental increase through the summer. August on-time performance was 87%. And again, I'd just like to restate that we anticipate wage increases for the drivers will have a positive impact on our OTP. Pickups later than 120 minutes decreased from July to August. We go to the next slide, please. Regarding call center performance, I'm happy to report that we've seen an improvement in our hold times. Call volume increased in August. We had 92,070 calls and ASA improved. ASA average speed of answer. We were at 2 minutes and 43 seconds for reservations and 1 minute and 48 seconds for where's my ride calls. And we would attribute that to increased staffing at the call center, some internal procedural adjustments, and the introduction of new technology. Okay. Customer complaints has trended slightly lower since the jump in April. In August, we had 278 complaints, 44 commendations, and we addressed 262 inquiries. And I just realized I may be speaking a little too quickly, so I'll slow it down. If we go to the next slide, this is to speak to our self-service texting. We've received a lot of positive feedback regarding this. The highest use was in July, and we've seen the use taper off. The top 3 most commonly used features are estimated time of arrival, trip list, and account balance. Go to the next slide, please. Thank you. I wanted to provide an update on our transportation management software, RFP. The process continues. In July, we set up a live simulation for the bidders for our software. In August, there was an extensive evaluation of performance, and we are having some discussions now about those results. I would say we will anticipate an award sometime in October. Next slide, please. This is simply a reminder about Curb and Userve and the service that they provide. You will receive the same exact ADA level service. The only difference is the vehicle will look different. And again, we will work to expand Curb further through September and the fall. You can go to the next slide. I wanted to speak to the ride organization. I had mentioned in prior meetings that we received approval to fill positions. Our approved head count is now 27 positions. We have interviews underway for 3 of those positions and a revisit to the senior customer liaison. the description has been modified to improve recruitment for the role. I was in touch with HR just today, and we anticipate posting that again in the next few weeks. A revised version of that posting will be shared with RTAG. So before I have, you can leave key contact information up, but there were a couple of items that I thought it was worth mentioning here. I know that there have been some concerns about service animals. And recently I was able to speak to a customer that experienced difficulties or service denial because of a service animal. I can assure you that there's zero tolerance, that we meet with Uber and Lyft weekly, that we will immediately act on any complaints that are submitted, and would encourage all of our customers to submit the complaint quickly and with as much detail as possible so we can follow up with our Flex partners. And then lastly, I think I should mention the theft of our vehicle that occurred last week. This is an active investigation. But with any incident, we take a hard look at policies and procedures and training, and make any adjustments that we can to ensure that something like this never happens. There isn't too much information I can provide you because it is an active investigation. But at this point, I would like to close out and open up for any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Michelle. So for our question and comment period for the ride, to indicate that you have a question, please use Zoom's raise hand feature located at the bottom of the screen. When you raise your hand, it alerts the moderator that you'd like to speak. The moderator will unmute attendees to ask questions in the order that they raise their hands. To speak, click reactions, then raise hand. On the keyboard, you can click the Alt button and the Y key. And if you're calling in, you can click *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute. Melissa, you are first.
Okay. Hello, Melissa.
My question is going to be always the same.
Mhm.
Why is my neighbor being picked up and I can't get picked up? She got picked up yesterday. She got picked up the day before. She got picked up last week. She got picked up the week before that. And I still cannot get picked up. And I don't want to hear anything about an invisible border. We still live in Stoughton.
There is a defined service area, and you sit just outside the service area. You can get picked up, but you would have to pick up your ride within the service area.
She lives in the same exact. She doesn't live down there. She doesn't live over here. She lives right there. The ride, I have the picture of her getting put in the ride on my phone, right there.
Melissa,
Building
I know-
30, she lives in building 30, I live in building 40. So whoever drove out here to see her and my building, we live in the Lux. So the post office said the Lux doesn't have two different zip codes. We have the same zip code. So for her to get picked up and for me not to get picked up, now the MCAD wants to know why you all haven't replied.
Melissa,
I want to know why you haven't replied.
I believe we have replied. I know that our team has responded to you.
Nope.
Melissa, I'm going to have us take this conversation offline so we can look into it further.
It would be helpful, and what I
it would
can
be-
share, Melissa, is I hopped in my own car and drove the route to
Well-
verify the information.
No
But
one
we're happy
has
to take it
replied.
offline and discuss further, okay?
I've been waiting for a response since July.
We will confirm your address and your contact information with Kat. But I know that we have documentation that we have responded, but I would be happy to ensure that this response makes it to you.
I would wait because she's been waiting as well.
Great, thanks, Melissa. Thanks, Michelle. Ralph, you're next.
How you doing? Just a quick question on the data that was in the data track that were provided. For the amount of complaints and the amount of late pickups, is there any total data for that time period? How many rides were given in that time period, so you can see how many what the percentages of rides that were late, and how many of there were other issues at that same time for people calling in, instead of just giving us a blank, showing a blank number of how many total there were that there were issues with, so you can see what the percentage of the rides were with those issues.
So Ralph, yes, we do track that internally. So what you're asking for is the total volume of trips?
Yeah, in that
Versus-
same time period, because it shows, yeah, it shows it shows like not the, like if you go to the next one, when you show the late pickups, and then the late pickups and the other issues, it shows you how many there were, but does it tell, is there a way of seeing out of how many trips that were scheduled during that time period, you know, what's the percentage that were late? Like if so let's just say thrown out there was 1,000 trips and it shows you 120, you know, how do we know what the percentages that were late? You know, is 100, if it's 120 out of how many were late?
I hear what you're asking. You're asking for
Yeah.
more detail so you can
Yeah.
take a look at the data.
Yeah,
I do not have that in front of me.
Yeah, you want to go by last year because of COVID numbers and out, but just to see what the percentages of how many of the total trips in that time period, that month or whatever, are late or issues with them.
I think we can provide that information. The reason we represented it here in this format is because that's a format that we use to report out performance internally as well. But I do not have that here in front of me, but if we get your information, I'd be happy to have a follow-up phone call.
I just think that's just better too for your own sake, for transparency, just to show how it's getting better. If the percentage of problems with the amount of call volume is getting better or decreasing, not just showing the overall problems, because it all depends on what the volume of trips are.
And we do track that internally. We do
Yeah.
track that internally.
Okay.
So yes, would be happy to follow up with you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ralph. Rashad,
Yes, hello. My issue is kind of different. We have an issue with going to Charles Street, and most of the time when I call the ride and they send me, I'm a blind person, and they send me Uber, which I love using Uber instead of the ride, mostly on time. I end up in Dorchester. I've been dealing with this issue for the whole summer. I tried everywhere to get into the right person to talk to. And it seems to be happening all the time. They pick me up, the same thing. The guy says, I'm here. You call him, he's in Dorchester waiting for you. They drop you in Dorchester in the middle of nowhere. And I believe it's a human error when they enter the address at the ride. They do not enter the whole address with the zip code. If there's any solution to this, because I don't know what else to do. Go
We will
ahead.
absolutely take your information and the situation down. And Kat, if we can coordinate that, because this sounds like it's a mapping or a geocoding error that we can address.
yes, definitely. Rashad, do you have access to the chat if I put my number in there?
I'm legally blind. I would rather if you email it to me,
Okay.
or I can record it. Can you just say it, please, if you don't mind?
I sure can. Give me 1 second.
Because when I order Uber myself with the Flex, I don't run into the same issue at all, never.
Hmm.
Only when I call it through the ride. and they send me Uber, I get thrown in Dorchester.
It sounds like we need to take a look at the information that they're recording at track. But it certainly sounds like it's easily remedied.
All
Please.
right.
Thank
My
you.
number for everyone, and I'm going to drop it in the chat as well for anyone who needs it, is 978-893-8100.
Charles,
you.
can I ask for your last name?
My last name Sadeh. S as in Sam, double A, D as David, I-E-H.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Rashad.
Thank you, appreciate it.
All right, the next person is a phone number calling in. It's 774-315.
Hello, this is Christine. Who am I speaking to?
This is Michelle Styler, Christine.
Hi, how are you?
Good, how are you?
Good. My question is, and I don't know the name of the program that it's called, so I'm not talking about Uber and Lyft, but I'm talking about the different vehicles that have the ride sticker on them.
Yes, those are, we're using Curb and Userve.
Okay, well, I
provide-
don't know which one it is,
Mhm.
but those drivers are not getting out of their vehicle to help in any way.
Okay,
So I'm legally blind. I'm a guide dog user. I go to beat baseball or I go any other place, and they just sit there and wait for you to, prayerfully see your car or have, I usually have somebody else help me find my car. And then they roll their window and they're like, oh yeah, we're here for Christine. Okay, that's all well and good, but aren't they supposed to get out and assist?
yes, Christine, that is not the way it's supposed to work. They are supposed to provide assistance. And can I ask, have you submitted any complaints? Have you contacted customer service?
No, I have not, because it happened twice, but I didn't take down the date. So I
Okay,
did not contact customer service, but I just wanted to make sure that they got the proper training and that they're actually doing what they're supposed to be doing. Because like I said, it's happened twice to me. I didn't take down the dates and stuff like that.
they have received training, and we haven't many reports at all about this issue. But now that I hear about it, I don't know if we can retrieve your information and take a look at it. We do meet weekly with all of our providers and can speak to them about recent occurrences. If number one, if you could submit a complaint anytime you experience that, because that's how we capture that data and that's how we act on it. Number one, and number two, if you can give us a rough time frame about when you traveled, it's possible we may be able to look that up as well. And it doesn't have to be on this call, but if you could follow up with Kat.
All right, let me take your number, because I gotta write it down.
Would you like me to say it?
I was just gonna read it off,
Yeah.
Kat, right? Isn't it?
All right,
Give me one
one more
second,
time. Yeah, sure. One more time for those of you who missed it the first time.
All right, and your name is what?
My name's Kat, K-A-T,
And your number?
978
978.
893
Yep.
8100. I want to play those as
All right.
my lottery numbers.
And that's your personal number, right, Kat?
That's my direct line. Yes, for work.
And I also had one other quick question. Now,
Okay.
I love the texting feature, and it's very accessible and very good, except for if you send out one of those other vehicles, it does not give you a time. Is there any way of putting in those other vehicles to that texting system as well?
Now, I would defer to a member of my team. Do we have either Elizabeth or David on the line?
Yep, David's here. You should be getting, and if you want to follow up, just when you reach out to Kat, of course, leave your first and last name. But you should be getting notification from, not from us, but from, if it's user, from user directly, as part of that. So if you're not getting that notification via phone call, then that's something we'll need to look into.
David, I think what Christine is saying is through the self-service texting feature.
I see.
If you're transferred to user over curb, can you still get their estimated time of arrival?
You can get our pre-calculated estimated time of arrival at the moment.
Okay.
No, it doesn't come through. It says that it's not being done by the regular ride. It's another thing, and they don't have the information. So then I have to get out of this texting thing and then call you. to
Yeah,
figure it out.
just jumping in here. This is Michael. I run technology for the ride. Hi. Our texting feature is connected directly to the Adept system, not to Curb or Userve, and that's why you're not getting those texts. But to David's point, you should be notified a different way. And if you're not getting notified, he mentioned that he'll look into it.
Okay,
Does that make sense?
thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you, Christine. I look forward to chatting with you.
Thank you, David and Michael.
you.
James Higgins. You're muted.
Thank you for that. It's been very interesting. It's my first time on board here, and I was having my own issues with the ride, and watching all that the graphs and everything go up. I could see my life in the ride was on those graphs. I was having a lot of trouble, and they have improved quite substantially. And one problem I had was with getting picked up. They were always trying to pick me up in my backyard. So it was like a location problem, and it took me a long time to get that straightened out, talk to a lot of people. Now I use, I'm not kidding you, I use the ride 8 to 10 times a week. I use it a lot. I have a brain injury and I get lost. So I have to depend on those people to like the fellow was talking about, he can't see where he's going and they're bringing him someplace where he don't even know where he's going, or, and it's almost like that with me. I almost, like, my family has to trust that driver to take me where they told him to take me and then get picked up and to bring me home again. And there's been a little problem in that because of the language differences. So I'm having problems with that, but I can deal with that. We've dealt with it. My biggest thing is, like I said, I ride the T so often, I use the ride, that my expenses are pretty big. And so I've been applying, trying to get into the Flex Pilot program so I would drop my fares. And I call them at whatever the track number, and I say, can you please look in my file and see if I'm in there for the Flex program? And they tell me yes. And the Uber or Lyft has never contacted me to set me up in their program. So like, I'm set up with the T, but I'm not set up with a provider. And I guess I need to be set up with a provider. And that would cut my T bill in half, every week, and it would be very substantial, a lot of help for me. And I just worry that other people are suffering the same thing.
James, it sounds like you just need a little bit of assistance in setting up your RideFlex account,
Okay.
and we can have somebody reach out to you.
Oh, that would be so great. Thank you so much.
You're
And-
welcome,
and
and
that's-
thank you for the kind words.
That's what actually brought me to this organization. This meeting today was my problems. And I said, hey, why don't I go listen and see what I can do for other people? So thank you very much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, James. If you want to just put your contact information in the chat, then Michelle's
Yep.
team will be able to reach out to you.
Great.
And just for the record, I'm madly scribbling out my notes. But I will have to touch base with Kat to make sure that I've captured the issue and the contact information.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Thank you, James. Rhoda.
Hi, Kat.
Hi, Rhoda.
I'm very upset. As you know, I'm always am upset with the ride. And consider the last incident that I recalled you on, Kat, I got 2 letters, one from TRAC and one from the general manager. The TRAC letter was very apologetic and they were looking into the situation. However, the letter from the general manager said that there was no issue because I got there in the amount of time that was allowed for me to get there. I did not realize that you guys do you guys do from point A to point B, how the timing to get you from where you are, from your home to your appointment or your destination, is that based on how long it would take to get to if you took public transportation?
Yes.
Okay. The general manager, I gather he's left already. He did not understand what I was saying. He said basically that I had no complaint. The complaint was that I was at the place, there was me and another person picked up on August the 10th, and we were going to the same area. He was going to 300 Trade Center in Woburn, and I was going to 200. When I got to 200, he dropped him off at 300, and the ride guy said, oh no, my GPS says I have to go to Woburn Center. It was right around the corner. I rode around for a half an hour before I got back to where I was supposed to go, where I was at a half an hour earlier. That was my point. And when I called the MBTA complaint line, I was very specific as I was. On the way back, that's one issue. And I'll just deal with TRAC from now on if I have a complaint, because the general manager's office clearly did not understand what the situation was.
Can I ask you, when you say the response was from the general manager, was it Joel Cook, the general manager of TRAC?
No, of the MBTA. Because I did a complaint when I spoke with Kat, I did the complaint with on the MBTA complaint line as well as the TRAC. TRAC responded correctly, and they are investigating the situation and trying to work with that driver. However, the one from Joel, it was signed by Joel. I don't know if he wrote it or if he just signed it. But whoever put that letter together did not understand the fact that, I don't care the fact that you put me, I was there in the allotted time. Why should I be at the place that I should be dropped off at, and the driver decides that I need to go somewhere else and ride around for a half an hour because the driver is stupid and didn't call and figure out where he was supposed to be? I got a half an hour extra on the ride that I did not need to be.
Rhoda, I'm going to have Michelle give a response, and then I'll be able to talk to you over the phone more about this.
Thank you. Rhoda, I can hear that you're frustrated, and it sounds like there may have been some backtracking or some inefficient scheduling, but what I would like to do is have that issue and that complaint retrieved so we could take another look at it. So I fully understand your concerns, but I'm not clear on all of the details just yet.
Okay, well, I can explain it a little bit more. On that same day, well, actually for the last 8 months, I have not been able to access my Uber. Every time I try to get it, it keeps telling me no drivers available, no drivers available. I have requested many times at the last 2 meetings, how can I get both Uber and Lyft on the Flex?
Okay.
I've been spending my own money. I am on SSDI. I do not have extra money to spend $50, $60, $20
Okay.
on Lyft because you can't switch it over. And then I'm also told that they don't roll over. If I don't use my Uber, allotted 2 one-way trips a month, it goes away. Everyone should be able to have it roll over if they don't use it, because we all, mostly everybody on this call is on a fixed income or have limited funds. We don't have extra money to keep paying because I can only use this one system. I can only use Uber. And at this point, Uber doesn't have as many wheelchair accessible way vehicles as Lyft does. And I'm getting frustrated. I've had to spend over $60 in the last month to get from point A to point B because I hate dealing with the ride, because the first time I used the ride was August 10th, and that was the first time in a year. And every time I use it, I have some issue. I'm either late, I'm either riding around for hours, and I'm getting really, really frustrated. It's got to be a better way. And I should get more than 2 one-way trips. If I get 2 trips, it should be round trips, not one way. And I need
Rhoda, I'm gonna have Michelle respond about the Uber and Lyft thing, and then.
And I also, 2 people that I've talked to, that they have both Uber and Lyft on their Flex program. Why can't I?
Okay, Rhoda, so there are a couple of things that I'm hearing here. One of them was you were referring to a complaint from August 10th that you didn't think was responded to appropriately. And we can pull that and take a look at it. And I hear concerns about related to that August 10th trip about inefficient scheduling and delays. Then the next item I have here is concern about you'd like to enroll with Lyft.
Why can't I be on both?
We can take a look at all of this. What I'd like to do is regroup with you separately because I'd like to be mindful of everybody's time here. But I think I've captured your concerns, which are RideFlex related, your August 10th complaint about inefficient scheduling, and trip allocation. So
Right. Also, August 10th, I didn't, because of the problems I had getting to my destination. When I was leaving my destination, I didn't want to take the ride back because I didn't want to spend another 3 hours riding around somewhere. So I tried to get Uber. I had to pay $25, and I have the receipt for Lyft out of my own pocket because I couldn't get an Uber.
Rhoda, I'm going to make sure that Michelle and I follow up with you on this.
Thank you.
I just want to be conscious of our time.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for sharing. Esther, you're next.
Okay. This is something that has come to my attention. And I had dealt with it once before, and I was told it would not happen again. But apparently it is. Why is it, or is it true that when Jehovah's Witnesses—
Esther, you're dropping out. I don't know if it's just me or everyone.
To Michelle.
Okay, I missed anything you said up until just hearing my name now. It sounds like you dropped out.
Okay, I said that I have heard this from a few of my fellow members, and I want to know if it's really true that when Jehovah's Witnesses try to schedule a ride from their home to Riverside Station to be picked up at Riverside to transfer to Metro West ride to bring us to the Natick Assembly Hall, I was told that the members were told, oh, I'm sorry, we don't do that anymore. And if that is true, that is discrimination against a religious organization, also against people with disabilities. I happen to be one of them. And this happened once before. And the way it happened was that someone at TRAC said to me personally, why don't you people go somewhere else? Why can't you all stay local? Now, if that were said to any other religious group, it would be taken care of PDQ. Because nobody should have to be discriminated against because of what they believe.
Can I ask when that comment was made to you? Because I would like to have that investigated.
Well, like I said, this was some time ago. This was way before our tag. But I was told it would never happen again. And it was told to me again this past couple of months ago.
Was it a driver or was it a track representative?
It was a track representative that told told the members of my religious group that they do not anymore, that the ride no longer takes people to Riverside Station so that they can transfer to Metro West to go out to the Natick Assembly Hall.
Okay, so again, I'm hearing two things. I'm hearing possibly inappropriate behavior from a track reservationist. And I would love to get that information, and we can have the phone calls pulled to review that if you can provide that information to me.
I'll have to touch with who told me that, but and it's been hard trying to reach them again. But they were so upset that
we can verify that. That's something we can investigate. So if you get me information about a date and a time, we can take a look. We can fully investigate. Number one, and the second item about I need to understand the origin and the destination.
The origin. Okay, I will give you a situation, or if I were still living in Boston, I would call and say, I live at 502 Columbus Ave, apartment 1. I want to go out to the Natick Assembly Hall. I would be told that what used to happen, and this was when I lived in Boston up until 2020, November of 2020, that I would be picked up at my home and taken out to Riverside Station at the Green Line. We would sit there and wait for Metro West ride and transfer from the MBTA ride to Metro West ride. Metro West would bring us from Riverside Station to the Natick Assembly Hall.
Okay.
When it was time to go home, it would be the.
And what you were told is that you couldn't be transported
to that the ride no longer takes anyone from their home to Riverside Station so that they can transfer to the Metro West ride. We were told that this person was told that that does not happen anymore.
Okay, so I would like to take a look at this. One of my immediate thoughts is that perhaps there is not a relationship with Metro West. You said it's a transfer to Metro West?
Yes, and see, the thing of it is that you had to have an account with Metro West. I have an account with Metro West.
Okay.
If I were to, like I said, if I were still living in Boston, this is how I would be picked up.
Okay.
And how I would go back home. And all the members that I know of that have dealt with the ride have the same thing. They have two accounts. They have one with the ride and one with Metro West ride.
Okay.
But like I said, I was told a couple of months ago that this no longer happens. And like I said, if this is the case, I would like to know why. Because if I were to come into Boston or come anywhere that I know that the ride would have to take me to transfer to get to Metro West, I would like to know how come that doesn't happen anymore.
Esther, I'm gonna make sure that that we look into it. And also if you can get the person that you spoke to directly to submit that information, that would be wonderful. And then we'll follow up with you off of this meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, Esther.
Thank you, Kat.
All right, Joanne.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
The carjacking that happened last week was a concern of mine. I've been in ride vehicles that have stopped to let people off, and the driver goes and, well, the time that really concerned me, that happened outside of Tufts Medical Center, and the driver had to take this person in. At the time, there was some construction going on, so it took him an extra amount of time to get in there. Meanwhile, and there are other times that I thought about it too, but there was somebody who was outside it looked like he was thinking about, am I going to take this or not? They leave they leave the truck running. So obviously it's a temptation for people to go off with the vehicle, whether there's somebody else in it or not. And from what I understand, last week there was somebody else in the vehicle. I don't want to be in that position. Is there any way that can be, is it a safety issue, or is there any way that the drivers can take their keys with them, turn off the vehicle when they leave?
Thank you, Joanne. So the ride policy is that drivers should not leave their keys in the ignition. There are some exceptions, and this was a 95-degree day. And the driver was reluctant to leave the customer in the vehicle while boarding another customer in the heat. But we're going to, we are absolutely tearing everything apart. We're looking at all of our policies and procedures on how to more clearly define the policy and ensure that all the appropriate training and even refresher training occurs. Because yes, it was extremely upsetting. As a matter of fact, horrifying to see that happened. So I can commit to you, and I can promise you that we are going to take a look at how to minimize any exceptions to that policy.
Yeah, it's a matter, it seems to be a matter of habit for a lot of people. They just leave it either. I mean, I've been in ride vehicles that have been left running when the drivers walked away. I don't like that.
No, and that shouldn't be. And we are working on that right now.
Thank you.
Thanks, Joanne.
Welcome.
Thanks,
Thank you for your
Michelle.
question.
Rashad, I have you up once again.
This is very quick. I wanna confirm what Christine said about that ride, Ouzo, whatever you call it, the one that put a sticker on the side. I had that 3 times. The first time he was late 47 minutes. We don't get a text. We don't know where they are. You have to call the ride number to find out what happened to your ride. And usually that takes from 15 minutes to 45 minutes to get somebody to talk to at the ride because they're busy. They get either short-handed or so many calls. I filed 2 complaints about they being late, about the guy driving like crazy. They don't come to help us, to walk us. They don't get out of their vehicle. And I got them 3 times. And the 3rd time, the guy, I guess he parked at the end of the street, smoked a cigarette, and then came to pick me up, and I could not breathe in the car. I filed the complaint and never followed up. And I was wondering, I called to see if I can opt out of that particular ride, and they told me no, because I'm signed for the Flex, and I should be able to get either Uber or the ride or these people. There's any way I can out of that, or these people, it just seems to be a nightmare. I'm sorry to say that.
Well,
Thank you.
can I get your full name?
Sure, it's Rashad, R-A-S-H-A-D. I do have a couple of complaints, and my last name is Sadeh, S as in Sam, double-A, D as David, I-E-A.
Okay.
Would you like me to give you my phone number? I don't mind giving it.
No, you don't want to do that in a public meeting, but we can have that information looked up. And I just want to make sure I understand the complaint. Are you signed up for RideFlex? Are you?
I am, but I did not want to have these people picking me up. I got them 3 times, and like I said, being late a couple times, guys driving like crazy. They don't come to help you. And there's no way for you to communicate with them because you don't get a text message that they're late or something. You just wait and wait and wait, hoping you get picked up by someone.
You had indicated that you submitted a complaint. Was it recent?
2 of them. This happened probably about month or 2 months ago. Yes.
Okay, we will retrieve those and take a look at them and follow up with you, because I
Yeah.
want to, again, make sure that I fully understand your concern, because I heard a couple of different things here.
Yes, it's being, it's like Christine said, they supposedly trained to come and help you find your way or walk you into where you're going, just like the actual ride car, not like Uber. And they don't do that. And it's just the car is filthy, they're late, you don't get communicated with. Like she said, with it, you don't get a text message saying your ride is arriving soon, your ride is late. It just, you're in the dark.
Okay.
Thank you for sharing.
I was gonna, thank you. So it sounds like that you may be talking about a user driver.
Yes.
And everybody here often hears me say, please submit the complaint. I want to thank you for submitting the complaint and encourage you to keep submitting them, because that's how we know that there's an issue and how we're able to tackle it and bring it up to our providers that we work with. And I can also share that when we initially launched, we followed up with individual phone calls to customers that participated, that received rides from Userve, and we've had positive feedback. So I appreciate hearing from you on this issue, and we will follow up both with you, retrieve that complaint, and we will take a look at it and bring it to Userve to address as well.
There's 2 of them, 2 complaints that I filed.
We will
Thank you.
take care of both of them. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Rashad. Dorothy.
Two complaints.
Dorothy, you're muted right now.
Okay, simple question is, I'm a Flex user, and I know you guys pay the first $40. If it goes over, can I pay that, or and it still be take off the $40 or whatever? And I pay like maybe if it was $16, does that work? That's the way it works now. See if I got a ride, and my ride was $56.
Yeah.
Would you pay?
You mean above and beyond the amount that we offset?
Yes.
I can answer that.
Thank you.
No problem. So yeah, yes, we will pay up to $40, and then yes, you can order a trip that is more expensive than that, and you would just pay the delta.
Okay, thank you, because I was kind of confused with that one. I thought only Uber did that. Thank you.
No problem.
Thanks, Dorothy.
Thank you, Elizabeth. Thank you, Dorothy.
Elizabeth Ann.
Hold the audio now unmuted.
Hi, can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Oh, awesome meeting. I have a comment and about this incident with the lady, the person taking off with the lady in the car. I know that there's that policy that's been in place for years that the ride drivers have to take the keys out of the vehicle when they step off. And what I've often done, and sometimes they will, argue with me about it, and I get demanding that no, and it depends on the location and where I'm at. I mean, this can happen anywhere, right? But it really depends on some of the locations where I'm at, that you have to take those keys, turn the vehicle off, and take the keys out of the car. I don't care what you say. And you need to close the door, the big door when you're on the van. I also make sure they close the door. It's just unfortunately that this happened. I wouldn't penalize really the driver for doing that, because he was trying to do something really good. That day was a hot day, and I understand that he did that purposely to keep the passenger cool while he stepped off the van. Is there a question? Is there any way that those doors can be locked when the driver steps off in the situations going forward? If that should happen again, we go through these heat waves. And I mean, because one time I was on the van and it was a day like this day that happened with this incident. It was hot outside and the driver went to one of these adult centers to pick up someone. And I was so mad with him because he left me on the vehicle in the heat. I started to feel sick, like I was gonna throw up. I opened one of the windows, I had to stick my head out. That didn't even really help. If I had seen that little lever thing on the handle where they open and close the door, I would have opened it and stepped off and tried to find him. That's how bad it was. And he should have had common sense, like when he went in to try to find the person and whatever the situation was, come back on the vehicle, turn the air conditioner on and wait a few minutes to see if someone brought the person out. And if not, then go back in like that. He left me on there for about 15 minutes in the stifling heat. Oh, I let him have it. I was just upset. But again, going back to my question, just to reiterate, is there any way that they can lock the doors for our safety? Because I pictured that in my mind happening to me. I've actually pictured that and I'm like, Lord, please don't let this ever happen to me. And it's so unfortunate that it did happen, but to someone else. So that's my comment and question. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth Ann. What I can say is that our customers and the members of the public, the safety of them is their top priority. This situation, and it's interesting that you shared with us the alternate scenario where the vehicle was very warm. I had mentioned that the ride policy is that drivers do not leave the keys in the ignition. This was an extremely hot day. An exception was made, but we are working to review internal policies and procedures and review training for drivers to be certain that we limit exceptions and that it's clearly defined and that we are able to keep our customers safe. We're not through with the full evaluation, but we will make adjustments to address that issue.
Thanks, Michelle. Thanks, Elizabeth Ann. Rhoda.
Yes, one more question.
Okay.
Regarding Uber and Lyft, on both of their apps, you can anyone who is not doesn't need a WAVE vehicle can schedule up to 30 days in advance a ride. However, if you are requesting a WAVE vehicle, you cannot. Why? I was told by both an Uber person and a Lyft person that because of the program, the Flex program with the MBTA, because there may not be as many WAVE vehicles out on any given day, they rather give preference to someone calling right away versus someone that has booked it. That is discrimination. Why do WAVE users, we have limited sources of transportation as it is. We've already been discriminated for many years over trying to get from one place to another. I can't even go rent a car for wheelchair use. So why can't we schedule a month, 30 days in advance? And why is this policy in process, in place? If I was not in a wheelchair, I could book a ride using my Flex account 30 days in advance. But because I'm in a wheelchair, I cannot. This is discrimination outright, downright, outright.
Michelle, I can take this.
Thank you.
Yeah, so when the program first started, and actually I think maybe before the program started, when Uber and Lyft started rolling out wheelchair accessible vehicles on their fleets more broadly, this was possible. You were able to schedule in advance. What happened was, and this is true for both
wheelchair accessible vehicles and also for ambulatory customers, trips that are booked in advance have across the board have an incredibly high cancellation rate. So we were seeing a huge number of trips being dedicated to, or a huge portion of vehicles being dedicated to a trip that ended up being a no-show. So since, as you mentioned, there is a little bit, there is a limited supply on that side. That is why they took it away as an option to book in advance, because cancellation rates in like the 20-30% range were eating up and sort of hamstringing a quarter of the service hours, which was already limited to begin with. So that is the reason for why it's taken away. Now, to your point, we can definitely revisit what it looks like now. We have the data, or rather Uber and Lyft have the data on what cancellation rates look like. On the ambulatory side, it's possible that cancellation rates have gone down. Certainly supply has gone up. So that's something we can revisit, but that is the answer to why that's the case.
Well, in response to that, David, if you book 30 days in advance, and the other 3 places that I've booked 30 days in advance, they give me a call or contact me 1 or 2 days before my scheduled pickup, and to confirm that I have it. So, that would eliminate cancellations. If someone didn't call in advance to cancel, then the Uber or Lyft, that person that sees the scheduled rides and someone that has scheduled a ride, and either shorten the amount of time, you can book 10 days in advance, something. But, don't discriminate against us because you think you might lose, the company thinks it's going to lose money because they want to get every person possible. Another thing with the Uber and with Uber in particular, I was doing a study, and the program at Brigham and Women's was paying for my Uber or Lyft to take me to and from my home. And there are Uber drivers who will accept a trip and then say 9 minutes away. Next thing you know, 45 minutes away. Next thing you know, an hour away. Why are people, that should not happen.
Rhoda, I'm gonna have David's team look into the this schedule 30 days in advance thing with Uber, and then hopefully they can have some updates for us. But I'm conscious of time. There's a few more people who have their hands
I don't know
up.
if anybody else on this call has, some of the same issues. That's why I was bringing it up, because it's very, very frustrating.
Yes,
When you
of
know
course.
you have a particular schedule and PT1 doesn't necessarily work all the time. And I'm so frustrated with the ride, I refuse to use them again.
Okay,
So
I hear you. I appreciate you sharing. That's what this meeting is for, and hopefully we'll have some updates for you moving forward. Debbie.
Oh, hello.
Hello.
I have a couple of questions for you. First of all, how long does it take them to respond to a complaint? Because I've had one that's been out since August 10th, and I've done another one September the 7th.
It actually varies depending on the research that's required to respond to the complaint. And just some examples, depending on what the complaint is, but we may retrieve video footage, interview drivers, search for incident reports. It's a lot of data that we compile. If it's an involved complaint. August 10th, you say your complaint was?
One was August 10th that I made.
Okay.
I should have heard from that one by now.
If you'd like to provide your contact information to Kat, we can pull that up and take a look at it.
Okay, but why?
And some of it is coordination. Some of it would be coordination with our call center and our service providers. So there is often a lot of work that goes into developing a response to a complaint.
Okay, because the problem was that, okay, I had asked for a van, and I asked for, I told them I need a lift and all of that. Okay, they were late picking me up. And they sent one of those new cars they got, you know. And my problem with that was that when I went to get into the vehicle, I got no assistance, no nothing. The guy that came to pick me up, he was standing on the corner talking to some other guy, and they were laughing back and forth. And the other guy was saying to him, well, if she fell, she'd be ready to sue you. And I just looked at him and I said, I didn't say much to him. So I proceeded to help myself into the car. I got into the vehicle. Then he came over to close the door. So I said to him, you didn't do anything else. You can do the seatbelt like that. And I said, as far as you listen to that guy over there, your job's to assist me, not to stand there and talk back and forth to him about me.
Debbie, so what I'm hearing is it was an incident that occurred on August 10th and you submitted a complaint. And it sounds like it was a user or a curb driver?
No, this is the ride.
It was a ride vehicle?
It's the one that Stacy used to drive in, one of those vehicles. That's the new ones that are out now that they're putting you in.
So it was a ride vehicle?
Yeah,
it was a ride. It was the white.
Painted with the ride, the regular ride vehicle. That's why I got a little ticked off with him. And he's sitting there listening to this guy laughing and joking with him instead of helping me. The reason I asked for a lift for the van with the lift, because I recently had a knee replacement and I can only bend so far. So that's why I asked. And they said the vehicle was coming and the vehicle came by, but it wasn't the number that the ride had given me. It was a different guy. And he said he was there to pick me up. I said, well, I was supposed to get a van. He says, well, if you don't want to get in, you could just wait for another ride like that. And they were already late. They were already late, about 45 minutes already late. I'm not going to stand in that much longer. So I attempted to get in the vehicle, for which he did not help me.
Michelle, are you able to look into this?
We will look into it. And first off, I just want to apologize because that is absolutely not the experience you should be having.
I've gotten, you know, like I have the Lyft program too. But if I get one of those high vehicles that I cannot get into, the driver will come out and help me. They gave me more assistance than the ride did. And that's the second time that happened to me.
Debbie,
Debbie,
we will pull your complaint and we will investigate because that is certainly not the way our drivers are supposed to help our customers.
Okay, because like I said, I had
thank you for
drivers come
sharing,
out,
Debbie.
And I tell them I can't really bend and I'm trying to get in and they'll come out and they'll help me get into the vehicle.
Thank you
And I
for
told
sharing,
them.
Debbie.
Thank you.
All right. And then we'll end with our last two folks who have their hands raised. Esther.
Quick question.
Go for it.
I had gotten a text message on one of my old telephone numbers telling me that I had a lift. I guess what these people are talking about using Uber or Lyft. My question is because I have a motorized chair.
Esther, you're cutting out a bit.
Okay, I don't understand why, but I want to know if the drivers, if these Uber and Lyft drivers have vehicles that have the hydraulic lift like the ride does. Because I have gotten into other vehicles using my medical transportation where the drivers don't have these minivans with a ramp, and the ramps are way too steep for me to get in and out of. And I have fallen off the side of these ramps one time too many. So I want to know if I were to ever use an Uber or Lyft vehicle, what type of vehicle would be coming for me? Because I cannot do just those tiny minivans.
They are, yeah. So Uber and Lyft do primarily subcontract out their wave supply. Most of the fleet are the vans with a ramp.
All right. Anything else to add to that? All right. Let's move on to the next slide. So that concludes our meeting. I appreciate you all coming today and sharing your experiences. This is how we make change in the system. Our next general membership meeting will be Thursday, October 19th from 3 to 5 p.m. Once again, there is a link to sign up for RTAG newsletters that was just posted in the chat. And I look forward to seeing you all in October. And if you have any further experiences that you'd like to share or concerns or thoughts, feel free to reach out to me directly and I'll get that information sent over.
Thank you. Kat, you and I will circle up and compare notes to make sure that we're able to follow up.
Will do.
Thank you. All right. Have a good night, everyone.